The following podcast is part of the MindBodySpirit.fm podcast network.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. Today, Dina Berrin, an intuitive guide and certified life coach who helps people understand their timing, trust themselves, and make clearer choices, especially during the inevitable moments of change, joins me for an in-depth discussion about the history of tarot, astrology, and even a little bit into numerology. She blends these three arts and practical coaching tools in a grounded, real-life way with a special focus on boundaries, self-trust, and living in alignment with whatever season you're in. Dina is also an author. She wrote The Way Within, Igniting Your Intuition with Sacred Tools, and her work is known for making intuitive skills feel accessible, human, and genuinely useful in everyday life. I hope you enjoy our conversation today. You can learn more about Dina and her work at dinaberrin.com. I will link everything in the show notes for you, and I will be back with you next week. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm so thrilled to introduce to you Dina Berrin. Thank you so much for being here and joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Dina, you're a professional coach, right? Or intuitive guide and certified life coach. And it looks like you really love helping people through challenge, right?
Yes, I do. I really love to help people understand themselves, especially during moments of transition, burnout, or during a time when they're doing a lot of inner questioning.
Yeah. And that's what we need more of in this life, right? People that can guide us through the difficult times. Speaking from my own experience, resistance is a thing.
Very much.
It's nice to have a guide of some kind to help you through it. So, but you're here today to talk about astrology and numerology and tarot and all these ancient tools that can be used for us in our own lives, right? To really go deeper, right? Discover what's really underneath the surface is kind of the way I like to put it. But before we get into all of that, I would love to give you the space to share how you got into all of this. What pulled you there? Tell us your story.
Well, I feel as though it was destined. So I was introduced at a very young age. My grandmother was into not numerology. She was into astrology. She was into astrology, and she would talk about people like their zodiac signs, like talk about, the Aquarius or the Leo or, the Scorpio kind of thing. Like, and I wouldn't understand, like, what does that mean? She's like, oh, of course they said that. They're a Scorpio. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I started learning, very off the books and kind of casually from my grandmother, but that lit a spark in me. And so while that happened when I was maybe like 7 or 8 years old, I was always interested in people's signs. I was always interested to know where on the zodiac they landed because of the kind of the seed that my grandmother planted within me. Then fast forward about, 15, 20 years where I moved to New York City after college, and I have a degree in exercise physiology, and I was working at a hotel gym. Now, hotels are open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so was the gym that I was working at. And it just seemed like all I did was work all the time. And it seemed like the only reason people left, that people didn't give, that the other staff didn't give a hard time to, was if there was a class you were taking. Oh, I'm going to a class. I'm taking a class. So I thought to myself, if I'm ever going to get out of here, I got to find myself a class, because otherwise I'm just going to die here in this gym. And anyway, so one night on my way home, I came across a flyer advertising like a 6-week tarot class. And I thought to myself, this is my class. Like it excited me. And I thought to myself, I'm in. So I went to the class, and it was like entering that classroom. I met myself like in a way that I can't even explain. There were things about me that I didn't understand. And through even just the introduction to the tarot deck, through this 6-week class, I was hooked. And so that class, so I continued to take class, but this one teacher, she would teach 6 weeks at a time, and then she would, take a break. And then 3 months later, she'd offer another 6-week class. So I was kind of like, it was very stop and go for me. And once I'm invested in something, I have a very hard time slowing down, and I wanted more.
You're like type A, I'm running forward doing it.
Yes, exactly. And so then what I did is I found another teachers. They were two, Wald and Ruth Ann, their name was, and they were at a school they called their place the Tarot School here in New York City. And they offered class every Monday night from 6 to 9 p.m. every Monday night, like 48 of the 52 weeks of the year. Like if it wasn't like Christmas or, 4th of July or something, there was class on Monday night. And I began going every Monday night. And what they would do is they would go through the entire deck in 1 year. But what they would do is they had a system, and they said, we will never repeat the same lesson twice. So what they would do is say like, okay, we're going to teach you the meaning of the cards. Then we're going to teach you the titles of the cards. Then we're going to teach you the cards through color. Then we're going to teach you the cards through symbolism. So what I call this is like the rotisserie chicken effect. It was like they keep on tilting the chicken, so they're cooking it all the way around. And what I did is I went to class every Monday night for 8 years.
Wow. You were into this.
I was committed. But the thing also is like, while I was taking tarot class, because within the tarot deck, there are numbers in the cards, and within the tarot deck, there are colors, and there are astrological associations. So what happens is it's kind of like there's a lot of overlap in this world of divination. So I felt as though my grandmother planted the seed, and then having this job kind of pushed me into a position of needing to make a decision. And I made a decision to invest in myself. And so what I feel is that all of this was born out of curiosity. I was always fascinated with why people repeat patterns, why certain years feel heavy or expansive, and why timing matters so much in our lives. And so I didn't come to tarot, astrology, or numerology looking for answers for the future. I came to them because I wanted language, a way to understand myself, a way for me to understand the rhythms of my life in a deeper and more compassionate way. And, what surprised me was how ancient and practical these tools actually are. They weren't created to mystify people. I mean, historically, they were used to understand cycles and timing and seasons and human behavior, kind of how like calendars and maps and psychology is used.
Yeah.
So, and I feel as though it has served me in every season of my life. And my work has gone deeper and more expansive, but I feel as though my first love is tarot. And I joke sometimes that I speak 2 languages. I speak English and I speak tarot. So I know this deck so well that, if anything is happening in this deck, do not worry. I will translate it for you in a way that makes it, bite-sized and understandable to you. And it's not scary, and it's not looking to predict doom and gloom.
Yeah.
It's here as a tool for information.
That's so interesting. Since you brought up tarot first, let's roll with tarot.
Okay, rock and roll.
So explain to everybody listening, how did tarot come about? When in history, throughout history, did this start? who designs the cards? What do they use? That I'd love to know the depth of this because, there's a lot of different card decks out there. And
Lots.
I have a question about that. Are some of them more authentic than others? Like what's the story there? Give us the lowdown on the history.
Okay, well, the history is that tarot originated in Italy, I would say around like the 1400s. And it was originally a game. It was a game called tarocchi or tarioki, and it was just like a card game. It wasn't no, it wasn't originally, it wasn't used for prediction, it wasn't used for mysticism, it was just used for fun. And then it kind of like went away, and it came back, I would say in England, in London, there's a secret society called the Golden Dawn.
Hmm.
The Golden Dawn had a very um, select group of people that were interested in mysticism and like just like trying to use these tools, to kind of like get answers and insights and work with the spirits.
Yeah.
And so in this Golden Dawn group that were in England in this like 1800s or so, there were two very famous, now famous creators. One of them's name was Aleister Crowley,
Oh,
and
yeah.
one of them was named Arthur Waite. Now, people that, one of the most popular decks in the world right now is called the Rider-Waite deck, which was created by Arthur Waite. And Crowley also took off in his in a little bit of a different direction. I think that Aleister Crowley was known as being a difficult person, and
Yeah.
he had a very specific way that he saw the world, and his deck and the way that he used it was he has a very deeper, complicated system, and that's not the deck that I use. I am more familiar with like the Waite deck, and what Arthur Waite did is he hired Pamela Coleman Smith, who was an artist, but she also came from like the world of theater. So she brought her little theatrical vision, and he gave her the instructions, and she then created the images in the deck.
Okay. So she
So,
did.
right. So Pamela Coleman Smith and Arthur Waite created and the deck that I use, like in most of my readings in my day to day, it's called the Universal Waite deck. Once again,
Okay.
it's another version of the Waite deck. And I feel as though the Waite decks are the kind of like the original traditional standards for, he created the structure. There's four suits. The four suits are based on four elements of fire, air, water, and earth. Each of the four suits, and some of the decks have different names for them. The names that I know is, fire is wands, earth is pentacles, air is swords, and water is cups. So in each suit, there are an ace through a 10, just like any normal card deck. And then there is a court. Now, the court of the tarot deck is a little bit different than a normal card deck. A normal card deck has a jack, queen, and king, and the tarot deck has a page, a knight, a queen, and a king. So there are 56 of the four suits. So it's like each suit has 14. Those 56 cards make up the minor arcana, called the Little Secrets. And then there's an additional 22 cards in the deck, and those 22 cards are those are the magician, the emperor, the empress, the death card, the devil, all the cards that are we call the title cards, and those are called the major arcana, the big secrets. And each of these cards, they all have many layers and a lot of meanings, but the major arcana cards are weightier. They're like the peacocks of the tarot deck. I feel like when a major arcana shows up, like in a reading, like I always look to see how many major arcana cards are here, how many minor arcana cards are here, what of the minor arcanas, like are there all wands, are there no cups, like what's happening here, and that could help us figure out what is going on, so to speak, in the deck. But Basically, so tarot originated in 15th century Europe as a card game, but the imagery wasn't random. It reflected, the shared archetypes of human life, so about power, love, loss, death, rebirth, work, everything. All these things were in there, and they mirrored real life existence. And the images themselves have become a language. And tarot, works through myth and through stories, and it teaches us through symbol.
Yeah.
So a lot of times how we read, yes, I understand that all of the cards in the deck do each have a meaning. And some people, like there's sometimes people read the cards upright. And sometimes if a card shows up reversed, there is a different meaning for when a card is reversed. Not everybody chooses to read reversals, but I feel as though sometimes people think when they're learning the tarot, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to learn 78 meanings upright. And then, it's going to be over 150 meanings if I'm going to have to learn the reversal too. And they get overwhelmed and then they're like, I'm out kind of thing. But how I look at the cards today, tarot functions really much more like a reflective or psychological tool. So when someone pulls a card, it's not about, the analytical mind. It goes more to the intuition and the emotion. And I look at this as like the art of storytelling. So when people say to me, like, are you a tarot reader? Or like, are you like, what are you? And I'm like, you know what? I I often I relate to the title storyteller because I feel as though what happens when I lay out a reading or when I look at the cards, a story unfolds to me. And when I'm doing a reading for you, the cards are like mirrors and they are mirroring what's happening for you. And it's just my job to tell you your story.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because you say storytelling and symbolism, which I always think, the things we see in form, they're really just symbols for us to go a little bit deeper. And so you weave this story and it's like we're living a story, right? The life is a big story.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And that was one of the big things that caught me, because I feel as though people get very stuck with where they are and they don't understand that this is all part of their story unfolding. Like
Right.
where you are is not an end. It's just a little plot twist in the story. It's just a little bit of information for you to grow and expand and learn so you
Yeah.
can do better the next time. And I feel as though through these tools, through tarot, astrology, numerology, through charms, everything that we use, this is a opportunity for you to learn and get to know yourself better.
Well, and like you said in the very beginning, that you were curious to learn. And when you come from your personal experience with curiosity instead of, oh no, what am I going to do next? And you kind of use these things, they're cues, they're signals for what's to come. It's like a preparation. Then it's really helpful. Yeah. Can I ask you a question real quick as we go
Of
back into
course.
in the history? You mentioned Aleister Crowley, and I don't know how much you know about him, but I always hear a lot of people say, oh, he's a big Satanist and he's the devil worship and all this stuff. Have you ever dove into him? So I was just curious what your perspective was on that. I know people get very, there's a narrative out there that the occult was always this horrible thing, right? We don't mess with the occult and the church is slamming the occult, But I always think maybe there were things that people just didn't understand. And so they classify it as evil, or I don't know what your take on him was, but
Well, you know what? I did not do a deep dive on Aleister Crowley, and I have had a little bit of exposure to his deck, but his deck is a very complicated system. I mean, so I invested 8 years in learning the weight system. I mean, I also use other decks, but that was the deck that I learned on. And if you are going to invest time in learning Aleister Crowley's deck and system, that would probably also require a similar amount of time devoted to this. He had a very complicated way that he saw the world, and I know that he was not considered to be a very likable individual. I know that he was not, people were not, I mean, he often, you know, made waves and stirred the pot and made trouble kind of thing. And listen, there is a use for people like that in the world. And I'm not gonna, I cannot, I'm not going to, like, if people want to follow that work and they find value in it, then I'm not going to judge that. But I really don't have enough information to share like a really deep insight on Aleister Crowley. So I feel as though it's a path.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in that, then I would do some research and then I would decide based on and like and trust your gut instinct on is this something that you would like to invest in? Because once again, it is a time investment. It's not something that you
Yeah.
can like just pick up on a weekend kind of thing.
No, sounds like it's very in depth. And I just never knew the depth of it. So, how do you explain like all the cards if you go into a metaphysical bookstore and there's tons of cards? Are people just creating new cards and different types of cards? Like, what is happening there?
Well, there are a lot there. Yes, people are. But you know what? I feel as though like it's funny. I have a good friend of mine who is like in his free time, he does cat rescue. And it's funny because he did a reading the other day and he sent me the cards and he's like, I did this reading for myself. He says, can you just tell me what you get from this? And I looked at the cards and they were cats. Like it was all cat tarot. And I started laughing because I'm like, you know what? Of course he would have the cat tarot. And, and it's funny. I have a very good friend of mine whose birthday is Halloween and she reads this Halloween deck. And I have to tell you, that deck is so confusing to me. Like it's like her second language. And I look at the deck and I was like, I literally have no idea what's happening here. So I feel as though just like there's chocolate and vanilla, there are a lot of different decks out there. And let me tell you, there's also so there are tarot decks. So there are traditional tarot decks that have, as I mentioned, the four suits with the 8 through the 10 and the court, how it is, and 22 major arcana. And then there are decks that only have the court and the major arcana. And then there are decks that only have the minors of 1 through 10. Like there are a million different ways to configure a deck. There are also what we call oracle cards. And the oracle cards are a little bit more theme oriented, a little bit more whimsical. Like they have angel oracle, they have, butterfly oracle, they have moon oracle, they have a lot of different ways. So what I feel is though there is a lot of selection out there. And that's why I always think that it's best learn on something that's standard, like learn on a traditional deck.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I own many decks. I honestly don't even have the full number of decks that I have because I have some in my bedroom. I have some in, I feel like I have them kind of like scattered around the house where I sit at my desk. I have a few decks. When I wake up in the morning and I do my meditation, I have a few decks where I sit where I do that because I pull a card every morning. So it's like I have a lot of different decks and I do based on my mood or my energy, or if I'm feeling a little bit whimsical, like I will pull out a different deck. So it is really great. And you know what, some people, like I have another friend of mine who is very intuitive. She's psychic. And she says to me, she shared a deck with me and she said, this deck, I am out of control psychic in this. She says, I cannot tell you, the hits just keep coming when I use this deck. I'm like, I gotta buy that deck. So it's like, so I feel like I'm curious, but I also do take, my colleagues and my friends' opinions into consideration. But if somebody is looking to get into tarot and they do not feel connected to a Waite deck or something that is very traditional, then go to Amazon or go to a bookstore where they do sell a lot of decks and just look at the decks. What calls to you? And you know what? Maybe you're a cat tarot person. Somebody once gave me, I think they maybe they were gifted it and they re-gifted it to me, but it was like the baseball tarot. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not really all that into baseball. And I just felt like, it didn't feel connected to me. So a lot of times if I'm gifted a deck or like I receive a deck, sometimes when I go to a conference or something, they give out free decks. I just like pay it forward. Or if I'm teaching a class, I'll bring some decks. And I said, listen, there are some decks here that I've been given, and I am very happy if any of these feel like they are your deck. Please gift yourself it. It's my pleasure to give it to you. But and I can also just say, some people say, oh, is it true that like your first deck should be gifted to you, that you shouldn't buy it? And that is a That is a myth. I don't really believe that. But if somebody does gift you a deck and, you are not obligated to keep it, to use it. It's funny. I was gifted the Alice in Wonderland deck and I gave it to my daughter.
Yeah.
And I think it's got dust on it in her closet, but I thought she might like it.
I'm picturing you with all of your cards, like all throughout your house, and a library of tools and meditation rooms. I'm envisioning your space. So,
yes,
that's so cool. I just think I was recently doing a workshop, and this woman was presenting online cards, like AI type cards. Have you seen this? Do you ever use that? Like digital cards?
I don't use that just because I really like to feel a deck in my hands. Like it's funny. So every morning I pull a card, and this morning, I sit down, I do a meditation, and then I pick up my deck and I shuffle until I feel like I'm done shuffling. And then I pick my card for the day. And today I did that. And as I'm shuffling, a card flew out. That's called a flyer. So I had a flyer. So I usually pull one card, and one card was my flyer. So I turned it over and it was the devil.
Oh, wow.
And I said to myself, so I'm here by myself. I could put that back in my deck and pretend that did not happen.
That did not happen.
I can accept this as my card for the day. And I feel like, you know what? It's my card for the day. So I took that card as my day. And it's funny, I did a whole writing about it, because the devil to me is where you're too hard on yourself. And a devil is where you need to laugh and be a little bit freer and have a little bit less intensity in your life. And I was like, okay, this is a message I need to hear, because I can be hard on myself. And I do sometimes pile too much on my plate. And I was like, you know what? There's no mistake that devil came up. So if I were to be using AI cards, to get back to your question,
yeah,
I don't think I would ever get a flyer.
You're never going to get a flyer. No. And you don't really know, like you click on it, but I don't know, like it doesn't feel as like you said, the tangible nature of it. And so the devil is like almost like just the psychotic mind, our chatterbox that's always telling us, the horrible things about ourselves, or it's just constant. So you could look at it in that light too. How funny that
the devil is our saboteur.
Yeah.
It's where it's that voice in our head that doesn't speak very nicely to us. And it's like, you're not enough of, you're not fast enough, you're not smart enough, you're not like, whatever it is. And you're like, do I need this? Do I need you talking to me right here, right now? So it's like that the card coming up was telling me to turn the volume down on that voice and allow myself to believe that I'm doing my best, which I am.
If you've got spring fever, Lowe's has the cure. During SpringFest, make your landscape stand out with 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro 3/4 cubic foot garden soil when you buy 3. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances to keep clothes, food, and dishes fresh all season long. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Struggling with weight loss? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program designed to promote fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it assists the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism and target visceral fat. In just 5 days, Prolon offers a science-backed approach to weight loss without extreme restriction or guesswork. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/now.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Well, that's a great way to look at that. So now you're talking about pulling cards. You want to pull a card real quick?
I would be happy to
Dina
do that.
has cards.
Here's my deck. And so I am shuffling. So we can wait for a flyer, or if you want, you can tell me when to stop shuffling, and we can do a little combo reading, which I'll tell you about. So,
Okay.
tell me when to stop.
You can stop.
Okay. So now what I'm going to ask from you is for you to give me a number between 1 and 10, the first number that comes to you.
7.
7. Okay, so I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we got the Page of Swords. Now, before we talk about the Page of Swords, I am going to give you a little bit of information about the number 7. So you pick the number 7, and the number 7 in the tarot is about choices. So I don't know if you feel like you have a lot of choices in front of you right now.
Yeah.
Or if you feel as though, sometimes what I feel is that when we are ready to make a decision, the answer comes. But sometimes we may feel as though somebody may be waiting for a decision. We may feel they're toe tapping, them looking at their watch and trying to move us along a little bit. And it's very hard to make a decision when we don't know what we want yet, which is why when the 7 comes up to me, for me, it's saying you don't need to decide until you are ready.
Yeah.
No one else has control over your decision making but you. So that's my message. So if anybody is, or you feel as though you feel pulled because maybe the answer that you would like to give and the answer for maybe somebody else that's already involved in the situation as well wants may not be the same decision. So you feel bad or you feel uncomfortable making the decision. So maybe that's another reason why you're kind of at this unsure point.
Yeah.
And if that is happening, the number 7 to me is a message to go with your heart. So it's saying in your heart, what is the right answer? Not in your head where you get into paralysis analysis, but in your heart, what is the right answer for you?
Yeah. Well, I'm making that conscious decision in my life right now. So that's funny.
I love that. Good. Now go with your heart.
Yeah.
Go with your heart.
Yeah.
So now that was our little numerology. Okay. Now I'm going to move into the Page of Swords. So the Page of Swords to me is also, so the swords are about the mind and how we think. It's strategy, it's planning, and pages, as I mentioned. So in our tarot deck, we have the court, and the court is the page, the knight, the king, and the queen. So imagine that our court family is exactly that, a family.
Yeah.
So the king and the queen are the mom and the dad. The knight is like the adolescent, and the page is the baby.
Oh.
So this to me is a decision that needs to be made. It could either be in the early stages of decision making, or also what I see is if you notice here, so the page is carrying a sword, but the sword is cut off at the top. You cannot see the full sword because the card ends. And what this is saying to me is you don't have all the information. Something is missing. And I see a lot of birds here. So the birds here is a lot of talk. So is everybody's talking in your ear and trying to give you information. So you don't have all the information, and then everybody's talking. And if you notice, there are a lot of clouds in the card, and they're all around him. And to me, that represents a little bit of smoke and mirrors. So to me, the Page of Swords represents a situation where you are early on in the decision process. You are not yet ready to make a decision because there's still more information to learn. And there are some maybe things that have been promised to you, but there's no tangible evidence that what is being talked about is actually real. And if you notice, my one last thing I'll tell you is that he's wearing a yellow leggings and a yellow shirt. Yeah. And yellow to me is clarity. Yellow to me is focus and intention. So I feel as though in order for you to get clear and make a focused and intent decision, you need to clear away the smoke. You need to stop the talking in your ear, and you need to get all of the information so you can make a decision. So as we were saying with the 7, you don't make the decision until you are ready and your heart is in alignment with where you're going.
That's really interesting. And all of that in that beautiful little card.
And a little bit from the number 7.
So the storytelling. Yeah, no, I like that. That was good interpretation for sure. So the 7, is getting in line with where you're headed, basically.
Yeah. And the page is you are on an early stage of your journey.
Yeah.
So you don't have to know everything, and you are still learning.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all learning at every stage of the game. So and I feel as though sometimes people get a little bit so we all know sometimes men don't like to ask for instructions, like for directions.
Like never.
And like never. So it's like they'd rather, I mean, now that we have our Apple phones and we have our direction apps and all this stuff, we get less lost than we used to. But I feel as though it became like a, kind of like a macho thing. Like they don't want to ask for directions. So, and it's like sometimes just asking for like whatever you don't know, it's early in the journey. Like if you don't know, then ask, get clarity so you can make this as simple as possible so you can get on to the next thing.
Right. Well, I'm in the middle of my life where all my kids are about ready to leave the nest, and I've been working on creating a whole new thing for myself. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's a new beginning to where I'm headed next.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of thought.
Yeah. Let's close this part, please. I've been doing that long enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's time to, kind of shed away, get rid of the things that are not serving you in your life. Like, get rid of all the things that are maybe blocking your decision so you can move forward with clarity and say, yes, this is what I want.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's good.
I like that. Thank you for sharing. Very cool.
All right. I would love to, can we transition to a little astrology here?
Sure.
I mean, I'm curious, you said they weave together in the tarot, but where did astrology, who sat down and, realized the energy of the solar system and the planets and how everything's moving? Like, how did this start? Because I have friends, we dive into astrology a lot. My really good friend is always reading my natal chart. What's going on? Where's your sun?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us how it started. Like, where did it come from?
Well, astrology was one of humanity's earliest sciences. And long before psychology or modern medicine, people looked to the sky to understand timing, cycles, and cause and effect. I mean, they looked at it for agriculture. They looked for it like when to plant and harvest. They looked for it for governance, when to act, when to negotiate, when to rest. And they looked at it for navigation. They looked at it for calendars. They looked at it to understand the seasons and the weather. And it was all about timing. I mean, ancient astrologers were essentially pattern observers. Mm-hmm. And they noticed that when certain celestial cycles repeated, similar themes showed up in human life. And this has been going on. I don't even know if I have a date. I mean, from as long since they created sundials and the Egyptian temples and all these things. So, today astrology helps people understand their wiring. It's how they process emotion, how they make decisions, and how they handle stress and need rest. So for example, you were mentioning that you and your friends look up the sun in your calendar, now in your chart. Now, there are 10 planets that we look at in our chart. The sun is the one that many of us identify with the most. People are like, oh, what's your sign?
Yeah.
And your sign.
There's a lot going on in the chart. There's
a lot going on. But the sun is about your identity and your vitality. And I look at the sun as your public face, the face you show the world. Now, we all know that the face that anybody shows the world, whether that be a leader, whether that be a celebrity, whether that be you, sometimes, you mentioned you have 4 kids, and
Yeah.
when you're out with your kids and maybe they're misbehaving, you're like very gently talking to them. Come on, guys, don't do that. And then you get home and you're like, kind of like ripping them a new one because you don't want to be like that crazy four-headed mom kind of thing. But it's like who we are in the public is very different than who we are in private. The moon represents that private part of us. It's about our emotions. It's about where we feel safe in the world. And it's like you really don't let down your hair, so to speak, and really kind of lower that that guardedness, that wall that we keep up for everyone. So the moon, the people that really, really know who we are deep down, that's a short list.
Yeah.
And those are the people
Very
that know
short.
your moon sign. Yes. And our rising sign is how we meet the world, like our personality and how people experience us in the world. Those are like when people say, what are your big three? They're talking about your sun, your moon, and your rising. But there are, we have a lot of other planets that we look at and other points in our chart. And so looking at your natal chart or looking at what's happening in our charts as opposed to where these things are lining up. Like, for example, this coming next week, there is a big eclipse. And so it's like, where is that eclipse showing up in your chart? Like, is it hitting, your work? Is it hitting your family? Is it hitting, your travel or whatever? Like it could hit in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So that is kind of how this works. But for example, to go back to our tarot card. So as I mentioned, there are 4 elements in the 4 suits of the tarot deck. And this is the element of air. Now, in the tarot deck, air is about the mind and how we think. But also air, like in the zodiac, we have air signs, water signs, earth signs, and fire signs. So this to me is an air sign. And so so how I view, so for example, the page, the knight, the king, and the queen, and I see this in every suit. The page represents the season that is identified with the element. So I see the swords as the season of spring.
Oh, okay.
So, so what I might say to you is this decision, like you might not have all of your information until the spring. Now, we're almost in mid-February right now. Spring is, I mean, who knows what the weather on the numbers on the actual
it's
temperature
65 in Colorado this winter. And it's just,
oh, really?
It's amazing.
Well, let me tell you, it was like -14 over the weekend here in New York. It was so cold. We were all like looking at each other.
Yeah. We've been the total opposite this year. It's like, am I in Arizona? I know.
Wow.
I'm not complaining.
Wow.
I'm not.
It was funny. I saw a meme. It said, this isn't winter. This is harassment. And I felt like I can agree with that.
Everybody gets their dose, right?
Right, exactly. But so anyway, what I would say is that in the season of spring, so what I would say to you is after March 21st, like I would say like either like sometime like late March, April, or even May, you are going to have a much clearer idea. You're going to have more information, but you're still in an information gathering phase.
Yes.
So for example, if this was the Knight of Swords, so as I mentioned, the page I see as the season. So the Page of Swords is the season of spring. The Page of Pentacles is the season of winter. The Page of Wands is the season of summer. And the Page of Cups is the season of fall. But then I get into, I'm not sure, are you familiar with cardinal, mutable, and fixed signs?
I mean, very lightly. I know what they are, but you can explain them. And which signs are they too? Because I know they're associated with certain signs.
Sure. So as I mentioned, there are 4 elements that I just mentioned: the water, the earth, the air, and the fire. And then there are 3 modalities. So the modalities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So there are 4 elements, 3 modalities. So for each element has each of the modalities. So if we multiply 4 times 3, we get 12. How many zodiac signs are there? 12. So we have one of each. It's very even. So for example, the cardinal sign, now every element has a cardinal sign. Now cardinals signs are usually the leaders, the initiators. They're the ones that get things started. So the first sign of every season is a cardinal sign. So for example, I said that spring starts March 21st.
Yeah.
March 21st is the sign of Aries. Aries is fire. So the first sign of the astrological season and of the wheel is cardinal fire. So cardinal starts it. Then it goes to a fixed sign. So Taurus is the next sign. Taurus is, a lot of people know Taurus as the bull. It can be very stubborn. And fixed signs are known to be like
difficult.
They're like rooted.
Yeah.
They're rooted in their thinking. So for example, like like a tree, it's not a newly planted tree. It's a tree with deep roots.
Yeah.
So like a fixed sign is like, I'm here and I'm not really all that movable. Kind of
thing. Is it predictable too? You kind of know how these people are. They represent certain qualities. Do you ever look at it like that? Or is it just like, I know people who you just know how they are. This is how they are. They don't veer from that. How would you explain something like that?
This is how my grandmother would talk about them. This is when it all started. But honestly, that's their sun sign. It's not their moon.
Yeah.
It's not their rising. It's not, their Mercury, how they communicate. It's not their Venus, how they love. It's not their Mars, how they fight. It's just their sun sign. So I feel as though sometimes when you get to know someone and you get past that public face.
Yeah, right.
They're different than they were from that initial meeting.
Mm-hmm. The persona that they put off. Yeah.
Correct. So they do have some of that. And once again, like, for example, I have a daughter who has sun, moon, and rising all in Aries. She is a absolute firecracker.
I was going to say, don't mess with an Aries woman.
And she's a triple Aries. I always say, I'm like, everyone's like, how do you, because she's so determined and so tenacious. The best thing to do is just get out of her way.
Yeah.
Let her she will steamroll you down kind of thing. So fixed is, and what it also tells, so if cardinal is the initiator, it's the beginning of the season. The fixed sign is the middle. It's when we are fully in that season. So if spring starts in the time of Aries, we are fully in spring by the time Taurus comes. And then we have a mutable sign, Gemini. And what happens in the mutables are a little bit like, they're a little bit bendable. They're flexible. They move. So what happens is that is the sign where we transition into the next cardinal sign.
So there's a flow to this whole thing. It's very flowing. Yeah.
Correct. So it's cardinal, fixed, mutable, all around the wheel kind of thing. And so it's interesting to know not only what element you are, but what modality you are. So if you are a cardinal sign, you probably have leadership qualities of whatever it is the element is, kind of thing. So
interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. Wow. There's so much depth to all this. Like it really is a science, like when you look at it, and a lot of people just poo-poo it like, oh, that's not real. But I mean, there is an energy out there that is sort of influencing the way things are. And when you're kind of open to it, you go, oh, like I had a couple major life things that happened to me during eclipses. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like they hit hard.
Eclipses are very eye-opening.
Yeah.
They shine tremendous amount of light and they often initiate change.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Transformation. Yeah.
Right. And so numerology, kind of ties into that as well.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's something called the universal year in numerology. And so how we get a universal year number is what we do is we just take the year number. So I'm going to take 2025.
Yeah, let's see let's hear about that.
Okay, so 2025, we're going to add 2 and 0 and 2 and 5 together. That equals the number 9. Now we're going to add 2026 together. So just to back this up for 1 second, in numerology, we are looking for single digits. The universe works in 9-year cycles, and we are working mainly with the numbers 1 through 9. We also do work with what we call master numbers, which are 11, 22, 33. But for our intents for this message that I'm giving you right now, let's just talk about the fundamental numbers of numerology, which are the numbers 1 through 9.
Okay.
And each number has an energy. Each number has a vibration. So 2025 was a number 9 year. 2026, 2026, that equals the number 10. But if we're looking to keep it through a 1 through a 9, we are looking to reduce that again. So a number 10 becomes a 1.
Like a 1 plus 0 is 1. Is that how you do it?
Correct.
Yeah.
So 2025 was a number 9 universal year. The entire planet was in the year 2025. And a 9 year, if we go through the numbers 1 through 9, and then after we hit 9, like we did in 2025, we go back to 1. Last year was not only the ending of a year, it was the ending of a cycle.
Right.
But 2025 was a year of endings, a year of completions, a year of wrapping things up and releasing whatever is not serving you. So you could move into the 1 year. We are now in a 1. A 1 year is new beginnings, a clean slate, a fresh start. So this is a perfect time for you to figure out what you want to do next. A cycle has ended. And these are like chapters of our lives. Mm-hmm. So and then, so the last time we had a number 1 was 2017. So the last cycle, the 1 through the 9, was 2017 through 2025. So maybe like think about, where were you? What were you starting in the year 2017? What was the theme of that cycle? And now as we're moving into this new cycle that's starting with 2025, what do you want this new cycle to be about?
Yeah.
And you don't have to have it all figured out, but like just start getting curious and figuring out like, where are you being pulled? Just as we were mentioning, like if you were in this huge Barnes and Noble and there were any area that you could go to, what are you kind of like being pulled to that you want to maybe expand your thinking on or just learn more about right now?
Yeah. Well, I'd be in the weirdest part of the bookstore.
I like it. I would join you.
I mean, which is always very small.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
well, it's really, thank you for the, information on how all of these things really do weave together. And for anybody listening who really wants to dive in, I mean, man, you could spend a lot of years learning about this and then how it can be useful in your own life. So let's transition now, Dina. You have a book, right?
Yes.
You wrote The Way Within, Igniting Your Intuition with Sacred Tools. Can you share that with us and where everybody can buy it? I'm assuming it's on Amazon. I think I saw it.
It's on Amazon. Here's the book, The Way Within. And honestly, with this book, it's my story. And then what I am doing is I am introducing you, the reader, to tarot, numerology, and charms. And these are 3. It's like a little section on each. How to begin, like pick one, and how to begin a practice. So this is not for like, it's for really all levels. But what I'm doing is I'm sharing my experiences, what has worked for me. And if you are curious about how to begin, if you are curious about how to, and it all started with me wanting to understand me better, me wanting to have a better relationship with myself, understanding what was happening in my life, why, I was struggling in certain areas that seemed to be easier for others. And then maybe the exact opposite was happening in other areas of my life. Like, I just help me understand myself better. And I'm just looking to give a tool to help people understand themselves better, have more compassion and love for themselves, and get curious instead of getting judgmental.
Right. That's so important. Well, most of us are really hard on ourselves. We listen to the mind and it can be ruthless,
We are.
Yeah.
It's true. And I just feel as though like, so what is your process? Like how have like do you have a process that you have like as you've been trying to figure out what it is that you want to do next? Like how have you
How
kind
do
of
I
like
do it?
split up? Yes, exactly.
Well, I had a very big transformation in my own life that brought me into what I just call a direct relationship with what I feel experientially in my body. I feel this presence. So I feel connected to something beyond myself. So for me, anytime I get caught up in my head, I sit and just clear myself so I can get connected, and I allow this greater essence to guide me. That I actually, maybe I don't know exactly where I'm going. I have an idea, I might have a vision, I might have a passion for something, but how it unfolds, I kind of give that up. Like how it happens, I give it up.
Surrender. I
Yeah,
love that.
because I spent so many years trying to figure it all out. And I just came to the realization that I don't need to know all the details, because the details is where I get flustered. So keeping like a larger, I always keep a larger vision of something than worrying about the little small things. Like my husband is always coming in with the small things, and I just am like, let's just like take a step back for a second and, let it all digest. We'll be guided. I always say we'll be guided. That's kind of how I work it. But
I love
I
that.
love all these
that.
tools too, because I think
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. But also like kind of letting, like the universe will take care of the details.
Yeah.
You just need to know where your heart is.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, you have to feel it. Like feel it in I feel it in myself. Like, and I don't know about you, but if you're looking for, should I do this or shouldn't I do it? I feel it in my being. Like it's a yes. Like, how do you feel in it as opposed to how I think about it?
Exactly. I call that a full body yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of, and this is your intuition talking, and a lot of people don't know how to trust their intuition.
Right.
And to me, it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more you know what it feels like, what it's there. Like, just like anything, how do you become better at anything? How do you become a better cook, a better writer, a better, meditator? You just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it becomes stronger. And eventually you do know. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, Dina, thank you so much for sharing this wealth of knowledge that you have with us. And before we sign off today, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners? And please leave in there where we can find you, and I will make sure to link everything in the show notes too.
Oh, thank you. And I feel like I just invite the listeners to think about what resonated with them today, not intellectually, but in their body.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever stood out is worth paying attention to. You don't need all the answers. You just need to stay in that relationship with yourself. And people can find me on my website, which is my name, dinaberrin.com. And I'm also on Instagram there. That's the best, probably 2 ways to reach me. Okay. And I'd love to, feel free to message me. Feel free to, and I have a YouTube channel as well. Everything's under my name.
Okay. And reach out to Dina for a tarot reading, everybody.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks so much for being here, Dina. I welcome you back anytime.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Lindsay.
That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Selling your car should feel like one less thing on your list, not one more. With Carvana, it is. Just go to Carvana.com, enter your license plate or VIN, and get a real offer down to the penny. No back and forth, no surprises, just an experience you can trust. Like your offer? Accept it. Schedule pickup, and we'll come to you with a check in hand. Your car, your timeline, your terms. Visit Carvana.com to sell your car today.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Spiritual ambition isn't about striving. It's about remembering who you truly are. I'm Donna Bond. Join me for the Spiritual Ambition podcast, where women awaken their divine nature and reclaim their sacred essence. Through transformative soul trips, powerful guest interviews, and live spiritual psychology coaching, this podcast is a living transmission of wisdom. If you're ready to free yourself from conditioning and liberate your soul, this is your invitation. Part of the Mind, Body, Spirit.fm podcast network.